Now, on Enough Said, with K-Fans Dan Barrero.
This isn't new, but that's the scariest part about the start of this season.
And Justin Guard.
It's chaos there. I mean, when you first read his letter, you almost think like they just walked up to a casino, grabbed him.
Enough Said.
Our crowd helps us out loud. They've got a fast break offense. He does a lot of things at the line of scrimmage, and so hopefully we'll start tailgating early because the game's at 6 this week.
Enough Said returns to the studio. Dan Barrero, Justin Guard, and Lori Fisher in the control room. My only disappointment as we start is I couldn't find the Enough Said button-down shirts.
No polos
today. The other ones we had, the short sleeves from the fair, it fit the sort of the motif. But how about some Enough Said for us for the studio?
We need the fancy ones. I will order those and then keep those short sleeve shirts for next year.
For next year.
So don't lose them. Let's get started with the Vikings. They play their first game of the season Monday night against the Saints and against Adrian Peterson. This is going to be an interesting game, especially since it's at US Bank Stadium, and Vegas thinks Minnesota is going to win. Dan.
Well, Vegas thinks we're, 2.5?
I saw
points?
3.5 yesterday. Maybe that's changed. I don't know. Too many points for me. We'll get to that.
The good news is that we have apparently 4 new offensive linemen from a year ago. The bad news is we have 4 new offensive linemen from a year ago. So I guess you could say, well, why would I want to see the same ones, as disastrous as it was? But do you trust that they actually have figured this thing out, especially when they're cutting a guy who a year ago they thought was part of the solution?
A big free agent acquisition, yeah.
This isn't new, but that's the scariest part about the start of this season, is that we have no idea whether they've done anything to really vastly improve. Because it doesn't have to improve a little. I think the offensive line needs to be vastly improved before we can say this team has a chance to recover from a crappy season.
Whenever your best argument is it can't possibly be any worse than it was a year ago, first of all, we don't know that. We have no idea that we hope that last year was rock bottom, but we don't know for sure that it's rock bottom. And if that's your best argument for how it can be better, then
it's pathetic.
You don't really have a lot. Now, on Adrian Peterson, Zimmer's saying it's not about Adrian Peterson. The Vikings are saying it's not about Adrian Peterson.
For you it is, though, isn't it?
Well, a little bit. It gives another layer, and I'm being the one of us of the two because I am one of us. I'm insulating myself and preparing myself. I'm predicting Adrian Peterson goes for 200-plus yards.
And will not fumble once.
And 2 touchdowns, no fumbles. Will pick up a key third-down blitz to allow Drew Brees to throw to whoever he wants and maybe even catch 5 balls.
Catch 1 for 42 yards.
And he's loose.
Yeah.
And so I'm preparing myself for that, and then anything less than that I will feel like would be a success against AP.
Here's the blueprint. If you want to, the Thursday night opener provided a blueprint that may be hopeful or maybe a little bit dangerous, in that a rookie running back named Kareem Hunt was the dominant player of the game for Kansas City. I think he averaged 10 yards a touch, 235 yards between rushing and passing. They have a quarterback similar to ours. Alex Smith is viewed as an okay quarterback who you don't really build around, but he looked awfully good last night. Why? Because they added what looked to be, at least for 1 week, a dynamic running back piece.
Like
so
Dalvin
can Dalvin
Cook
provide that same sort of spark? Because to me, again, I don't buy Sam Bradford can be a dominant quarterback who can do the old climb on my back. He needs help from people. And so that's what I think the Vikings have to hope, is that Cook can provide the same kind of spark that we saw from Kareem Hunt last night. He needs other people to elevate him.
He does.
And if we don't get that with this offensive line, I think we're sitting here talking about 8-8, 7-9 again.
It is the biggest thing with when he had time last year, and I always go back. I go back to the first Green Bay game when he came in on like 8 hours of prep, and they gave him a little bit of time. Adrian was still in at that point; he hadn't got hurt. He played well enough in that game for me to think, gosh, if they can just help him and give him some help, we'll be fine with
Saints
him.
have been terrible defensively the last 2 or 3 years. Terrible.
Of the Saints,
so they got to get something going offensively.
Yeah, the Saints in week 2 are going to play the Patriots, who lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 42-27. Justin, what do you think about that?
Very surprising. I think the Patriots, speaking of Vegas odds, were 9-point favorites.
That's
there.
Right.
And Kansas City, we know they have a little bit of pedigree. They've been good the last couple of years. Andy Reid's still the coach there. I think Chili's still there, right? Our guy Brad Childress. And Alex Smith has been there forever, it seems like. But in that division, I think they're in Denver's division and Oakland's division. They've basically been the afterthought the last couple of years. So I was very surprised. You're always surprised when the Patriots lose, right? There's never a time when you say, that makes sense, that New England lost, especially at home and especially
by
the
way they started the game.
2
First
touchdowns.
drive was clinical, was textbook, and it looked like they were well on their way. And the second half, I mean, Brady didn't even complete 50% of his passes.
Which is also strange to see.
Which is very strange to see. And you know what? How they negated him a lot? They knocked him around.
Yes.
They hit him a bit. And with
same
any
story for every quarterback, right?
That's the way it works, right?
Yeah, hit him a little bit.
I wouldn't give up on New England yet.
I'm going to give him some
But
chances.
if he has another bad week, they got a tough opponent, I think, this next week. Well, I think they're at New Orleans.
Yeah, that's
if
what
they
Lori
lose
said.
that game and Brady struggles, it's all it's going to take for the media jackals
The
to
Garoppolo
say,
people?
it's over. It was a nice run, but it's over for him.
Didn't that happen the year, not this last Super Bowl win? You get their Super Bowl wins confused. I think that happened the year they also won it.
Yeah.
Like week 3, they were ready to put Garoppolo in there.
Next topic, Seattle Seahawks player Michael Bennett says he was racially profiled and a victim of excessive force by Los Angeles police officers. This goes back to the night of the Mayweather-McGregor boxing fight. Bennett says he heard what was gunshots and ran for cover. Police officers ordered him to the ground. Bennett claims that one said if he moved, that they would blow Bennett's head off. This is that TMZ video that all of us have seen. Take a listen to what Bennett had to say after it.
The whole time through the whole situation, all I could think about was my wife and my kids. I think people sometimes you think that the game is the most important thing, but for me, the whole time I wasn't thinking about the Super Bowl. I wasn't thinking about what play we were going to run against Green Bay or second Aaron Rodgers. I was just literally thinking about my wife and children and how much they mean to me.
Bennett has an attorney, and that was Las Vegas Police Department. They say they have no evidence that race played a role in the incident. Dan?
Well, I guess, first of all, I wouldn't be surprised that you're not going to be thinking about football.
Yeah, that's good. I guess
at
his wife's
time
probably
like that,
thinking,
a stressful
that's nice.
time like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think, why would anybody think that? I'm not exactly sure. Are we allowed to let the story develop? Are we allowed to find out more detail? Are we allowed to look at more video? The answer obviously is no. Look, there have been way too many African-American athletes and others, folks that I know, who say, I've been there. I've been in a similar situation where something happened nearby and it was assumed that I was the bad guy. I'm not going to pretend I can relate to that or understand that.
Nor can I.
However, we got to have some key questions answered on this. Why was he selected? Why was he picked out? A lot of people were running and even hiding. He was viewed, the cop said he was kind of hiding behind something. Everybody's going to be hiding when they hear a bullet or sounds what they thought were bullets. I guess that wasn't shooting. But at what point did they say to him, stop, we need to talk to you? Did he answer to those commands? Those are the details, I think, that we need to get before we go to DEFCON 1 on this story. But we start these stories at DEFCON 1. And frankly, at that point, then there doesn't seem to be any place else.
And I think everybody agrees he was detained for about 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure that can feel like an eternity when your life is flashing before your eyes. But it's not an overnight thing. They didn't take him anywhere. He was in a car. They figured out he wasn't involved, and they let him go. And the video that I keep seeing, besides the one that we saw there on TMZ, is one where the police officers are entering the casino trying to figure out where the shooting is. And you've seen that one. I think there's 126 videos, right? It's Vegas. So
allegedly.
We're going to be able to put this thing together. But that one, people are flying all over the place. They're sprinting by. They're hiding. There's all kinds of police activity. It's chaos there. I mean, when you first read his letter, you almost think like they just walked up to a casino, grabbed him, with nothing else going on, right? Completely out of context. So like I said, I agree with you. Like I said, we have no idea what that is actually like to be put in that situation. We probably never will. But there are a lot of things that are unanswered at this point.
There were a lot of people who, as I said, to me it goes back to why did he get identified?
Final point, Dan.
Was it something that he did specifically? And even if they wrongly thought he might be involved, at what point did they say, is he running? And then they say stop, or and
the one officer didn't have his body cam on, which is another thing that we need to figure out, because that does seem a little ridiculous.
I wanted to get to the hurricanes. It's been a busy and dangerous hurricane season, several of them making landfall, and we've seen what's happened in Houston and in Florida. Harvey, Irma, and now Jose. Dan?
Well, the only saving grace here, if there is one, is that because we just had another big hurricane, I think a lot of people are more in the mode of taking this thing extremely seriously and not doing the old, big deal. I've been through these before. They talk big, they terrorize, and nothing happens. And because of what we just had take place in Houston, I think there's a lot more vigilance and a lot more willingness to take this stuff very seriously from the beginning. And now we've got two, right? We got two category
back to back.
fours,
Jose, right?
And Jose, on the backside. So you're back to where does it, as I understand it, there's a ton of variables on where it might land, where it goes, but that all the indications are we got another really, really big one. In this case, not because of the rain, but because of the wind damage and how much damage that might do to South Florida.
Back-to-back with Houston, but also back-to-back in a way with South Florida, where you have a lot of people that lived through Andrew. If you read stories coming out of there, people saying, I lived through it once, I'm not doing it again. The response to Andrew kind of became the template, did it not, for how every city and even federally how we build in areas like this, how we evacuate in areas like this. The biggest problem they have, and this also goes to Houston a little bit when people criticize them for not evacuating, is it's tough to move a lot of people. And
$6.5 million.
Exactly, and you've got.
Well, they're trying to do that in parts of Miami, right? And,
yes.
and they've got the traffic jams that were predicted.
Traffic jams, they're out of gas, they're out of water, people are trying to get supplies. There are a lot of issues still, but it seems like they did get out in front of it a little bit, a lot because they know what they're doing down there. It sounds weird to say that, but this area knows how to handle these kind of situations.
Let's also remember, it's already done an incredible amount of damage in a number of the islands in that
St. Martin's basically gone.
Barbuda, an island known as Barbuda, was, according to officials, they're like 95% out of commission. So I don't want to be too American-centric with this. It has already done an incredible amount of damage, apparently.
And even where they didn't do a lot of damage, just like Puerto Rico, for example, has lost power, and because they're so economically strapped, that's going to be gone for a couple of months. They were already in the meat grinder there. So it's definitely hit, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets
better. But I don't put my negotiations on the table, unlike past administrations. I don't talk about them. But I can tell you that North Korea is behaving badly, and it's got to stop.
Welcome back to Enough Said. President Trump has a lot on his plate. You have him responding to possible military action against North Korea. His administration also announcing the end of the DACA program for hundreds of thousands of immigrants protected from deportation. And you have the deal between Trump and Democrats to temporarily fund the government through December. Dan.
You know, I want to start with the DACA stuff. North Korea, we've decided we have no answers.
No.
Do you have any answers?
They are behaving
if we had
badly.
Answers, they probably want us in Washington. Nobody has the answer.
They are behaving badly. We can all agree, but we don't know what to do about it.
What do we do about it?
Exactly.
Without taking out South Korea. The DACA program, as I understand it, was implemented. And there's question about whether it was legal because the president just did it.
Yes.
Okay, so there's legal questions there, I guess.
President Obama,
But the whole concept was, all right, if you lock into this program or you agree to it, in effect, we're going to try to give you a path to freedom. We're going to defer any concerns about making you leave here. But you're going to have to give us some information. And to be in this program, you can have no serious criminal record. You have to either have a job, be in the military, or be a student. Real threats to the United States of America.
Right.
And a lot of people raised their hand and said, you know what, I'm going to do that.
Sounds good.
Now the government's saying, guess what? We're going to use, if this thing blows up, we're going to use that information against you to round you up. Forget the legalities. It's about as immoral as hell. It's pathetic. And it's politically about as stupid as you can get. Because I don't even think the harshest immigration people would say, this is where we start on rounding up the quote-unquote undesirables, right? It's a shameful episode, largely forced by a bunch of Republican attorneys general
that he has to make a call on it.
Put him in a box. So shame on them, shame on the party.
And when you don't know a lot about it, which we're finding out President Trump doesn't, right? Because there's a lot of things he just doesn't know about, which doesn't make him a bad person, doesn't make him a bad president, but
it might make him a bad president.
Well, it could, but when he also loads up with people who advise him on stuff like this, that then say, well, here's what you want to do, and he just goes with it. And then finds out that even when he rolled this out,
backpedaled.
That's what I mean. When he rolled this out, during the campaign, he called these people great people. Then he said, but we're going to get rid of them. Then he said he rolls this thing out, and now he's already backpedaled again. So that's his biggest problem with all of this, is that he relied if he relied on other people or people that maybe understood the political temperature of things like this or had more season to them, then he'd be fine. But he loads up on these advisors. They do stuff. And then he has to react to it in real time, not really knowing anything about it.
You don't have to be xenophobic to believe that we should tighten up some immigration issues.
Yeah.
But this is sad and ridiculous. And the irony, of course, here is Trump, for the first time, made a deal with the Democrats that is the kind of deal that I thought he might, as a maverick, be likely to make all along that might actually be useful. And I don't even know if this is a good deal. I just know it's refreshing that there's actually a legislative deal in place, and now he's got the
got a lot of momentum
bitter
there.
because he's reached across the aisle to deal with the Dems.
Enough said. Let's get to the Twins. Let's talk about them. They are still right in the middle of the wild card race with just weeks to go in the season. Justin.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. We're still here. And once
Lori
again,
tried to bury him again.
Yeah, Lori gave up her season tickets. I mean, she's had season
Yeah.
tickets all year, and they lose a couple in a row.
This probably should have been the first segment.
Maybe it will be,
Yeah.
but we've said it's almost like a broken record. Like the season has gone like this, a couple of steps forward,
Yeah.
a couple of steps back, couple of trades because we think we're in the run. Then we make moves because we're out, couple of steps forward, couple of steps back. All good, I think, still. I know the bullpen is kind of a circus every once in a while. You still got some guys out. I think we agree Molitor's bought himself some more time, but you can't get any better than this. And hopefully, I know Target, they were ramping up to hire more people for quote-unquote wild card crowds as they come down the stretch here. I hope people do show up and have a heck of a time.
Yeah, I mean,
why not?
They should be. And then they had just had another big comeback again the other
Kansas
day.
City.
And so all of this is, I think, again, they are probably, I'll be more shocked if they don't get the spot than if they do. And that sounds
because nobody
weird to
else is
say.
really taking it away
No,
from them, right?
no.
Los Angeles has kind of been around a little bit.
And
they made a
offensively,
move.
they got enough of a burst going, I think, where I trust him. And do I have to apologize to Gibby? I mean, Gibby has
good,
had
right?
4 straight quality starts, which I did not think was even literally possible
I don't
at this
think
point in
anybody
his
did.
career. He has
So do
been
you bring him
a
back?
key. No,
You still don't?
No.
What if it's 5 or 6? What if he pitches in the playoffs really well?
If he pitches 2 perfect games in the playoffs,
You'll consider
then
it?
I'm willing to consider
You'll
bringing
think
him back,
about it?
but nothing short of that.
What about Big Sexy? Bring Big Sexy back. That's Lori's favorite.
I'm already committed to him for 2000.
I think he should
And
be.
he wants to come back one more. He wants to pitch one more
until
year
he's
to promise
45.
his mom he's 45 years old.
It's going to be, so Santana pitches the wild card game
Right.
against the Yankees, right? Big Sexy game 1, Barrios game 2, and then you go Gibby game 3 back here at
Enough
Target
said.
Field,
This
right?
should be fun. I mean, this
Yeah.
absolutely should be fun. What's going on right now?
And
with
I
this
still,
team.
by the way, I still love the Twins. It's just much easier for me to go to games in the summer than when it's back
Of course
to
it
school
is.
time.
So
Of course
busy.
it is.
Yeah, back to school.
That's not
Yeah,
going to
you're
work.
the only one with school
They
age
don't need
kids.
you now, Lori.
Yeah,
Don't
unbelievable.
jump on now.
Let's move on to the Gophers. The football team won their season opener, as we know, but now they take Oregon State. They are expected to win, but does that still hold true with their performance from last week? Dan?
Are they expected to win? I think they're
I thought-
underdogs.
We're underdogs now, right?
Well, it depends.
Depends
There's
on which,
a million. It's basically 1 or 2 points on either side,
Oregon State's not very good.
allegedly.
We're not very good offensively. At least we didn't show much in that first week. It was fascinating to hear that your guy, the head coach, basically say, well, on the running game, we stayed purposefully very vanilla, which I'm thinking to myself, whoa. I mean, you were in danger of losing that ball game.
Not really.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it was a one-score game. It was
a
close.
turnover or an interception.
The margin for error would have been
So
small.
I
A
would
weird
say,
thing could have happened. No,
yeah,
you're right.
I would
You're
say
right.
if you got other plays in the book, I'd already go to them. I think that stuff's all overrated.
I do
'cause it's
too.
the old, just stop. They make the other team stop what
Yes,
you do well.
I agree.
So we all agree, offensively, I think going into the season, the feeling was they were going to be offensively challenged. Right?
Yes, I think the
Now-
same questions after week 1 are the questions that we had in training camp.
The
right?
hope was,
Quarterback
though,
and
they would
offensive
run
line.
better from the beginning.
They have to.
Even with their own, we talk about the Vikings' iffy offensive line. There's some offensive line issues here, as you well
Big
know,
time, yeah.
that are going to be tell the tale on how far this team goes with a tougher schedule than a year ago.
And throwing the ball, I thought the quarterbacks were okay. The difference is which quarterback is going to allow them to run the ball better, because that is going to be the bread and butter of this team, right? And when Croft was in there, he was a little bit more of a running threat than was Rhoda.
Did he run very well?
He ran okay.
He ran okay. To me, he's got to become, to play him,
he's got to
he's
run
got
a
to
lot
be
better.
a better running threat.
Well, Rhoda
Otherwise,
has to at
I'm
least-
going with Rhoda, even though he made the bad interception.
Well, and he needs to keep the ball a couple of. If they're
That's
going to
true.
do the
Yeah.
zone read option stuff, they were just forgetting about
True.
him.
Yeah.
Was Buffalo, so he needs, like Mitch, for all his faults, was a good running quarterback.
So,
and people had to at least.
Is our
count for
quarterback
him.
of the future already on this roster, a name that I don't know yet?
I don't
or
think
is
so.
it yet to be recruited?
They say that they've got a kid coming in January that PJ loves.
Okay.
I would be lying if I told you I knew a lot about him, but I know he had a kid that was committed to him at Western Michigan that basically kept driving when he got the job and
Right.
came here to Minneapolis. But there's another guy he's allegedly bringing in January that he really, really loves.
Here's the sad news, too. The early part of the Big Ten schedule looked favorable.
Yeah, Maryland and Purdue.
I don't want to overreact the first week.
We are going to rip through 5 topics in the lightning round. First up, Rocori High School in Cold Spring reversed its decision to ban flags on vehicles in the school parking lot. The change initially happened after students started showing up with Confederate flags on their pickup trucks. Dan.
Well, it's odd. Apparently, the original policy said all flags, and so then some kids showed up with some U.S. flags, and they got nailed. They got caught in the middle of it. I mean, you'd like to think U.S. flags would be okay.
They should be.
Fox 9 Plus flags would be okay.
We'd love an enough said flag. Yeah,
enough said flag.
We need an enough said flag.
So, yeah, the issue, I get the Confederate part.
Yes.
I don't get the U.S. part, but now it appears they've clarified their policy. So it's a tempest in a teapot in this case?
I would think so.
Yeah,
at some point, we're all just going to wear uniforms.
Okay, enough
we're
said.
all going to have the same thing. We're not going to be no...
The flag, what can go where is very exhausting.
Yeah.
I like the Fox 9 Plus and enough said flags. Good idea.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Next up, Dallas Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott will have to do the 6-game suspension. An NFL appeals officer rejected his appeal. He was accused of domestic violence, but he is allowed to play the first game. Justin.
Which everybody thinks is a conspiracy theory because it's on national TV.
Yeah.
It's against the New York Giants. Jerry Jones is as powerful as they come. They want to start the season with them. The Zeke story, I call him Zeke. I have a good vibe with him. It is interesting to go further and further back.
Yeah.
Like all the little things that he's been involved with, even going back to his time at Ohio State. Maybe this will help change his ways, but he could also never. There's so many things that could go wrong.
Well, the interesting thing is there. Remember Josh Brown? There was controversy. The kicker was only suspended originally for 1 game.
Yes.
Now they've made it 6 because I think people have said, wait a minute. How does he only get 1 when he admitted to what he did? Doesn't make any sense. So the problem the league has is a consistency issue, I think. Yeah.
Lindsey Whalen is back with the Lynx, just ready for the playoffs. She returned to practice after being out for a broken bone in her hand. Justin.
They need her. I mean, she was only playing 20, 25 minutes a game while she was healthy. But what were they, 7 and 5?
I think they were 7 and 5.
They sputtered down the stretch.
They gained a little bit the last few games.
Yeah, but
they were even
struggled.
a worse record.
They struggled, honestly, more than I thought they would. As much as important as Whalen is, and we know there are no two bigger fans of Whalen than us.
Right.
I couldn't believe how much they struggled with her out. Given
Yeah,
the other
I mean,
talent
she
they
still
have.
has value. And the other thing I think it showed up is the people they were replacing her with were not great.
Right.
And so it was a combination of both of those
Hey, you
things.
guys are back in the studio. Are you feeling nice back in your digs? You were
We
at the
kind of
State
missed the
Fair.
studio audience.
I kind of missed the energy,
The audience, yes.
Everybody
Well,
waiting for their free Fox 9 bag.
and then leaving.
This year's fair set an attendance record with 1,997,320 people. It also had 3 individual record-setting days, and I know I heard from everyone, including you guys, that it really felt really busy. Dan.
Is that tickets sold or is that actual attendance?
I think it's both.
Well, and again, if it's actual attendance, isn't that low? Because kids don't need tickets, right?
They don't? I thought kids needed them.
Oh, they do?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's under 5.
Under 5?
Under 5 is
There's a lot of kids I saw that are under 5, but believe me, I almost got run over by 9 of the strollers.
Yeah.
So I got to believe we actually went well over 2 million.
Okay,
Give
1 minute
ourselves
left.
proper credit.
It's an elusive 2 million deal. It's a 2 million people thing.
I wanted to
right?
get to this. Dog lovers should love this. A new study by the Mayo Clinic shows that sleeping with your dogs actually helps people sleep better. But here's the deal. The benefit only comes when the dogs are actually in your room, not under your covers in your bed with you. And what we were talking about is I wish this would hold true for kids as well, as we all have little ones that like
Yeah, what
to
about 2 kids and a
sneak
dog?
in.
2
Yeah,
dogs
it's
and
the
a cat.
constant how
And
many
a
times
dog.
a night,
Does anybody
in
sleep
and
with
out.
their parakeet?
Oh, I'm
Is
sure
that
a couple of
unusual?
people
Yeah,
do.
probably
Yeah,
do.
they bond with their
Dog, yeah, our
parakeets.
dogs, both of them have been on our bed forever and ever and ever. And so they're not necessarily on the dog bed. They're in with us, and I don't think I've been bothered by it. I think it comforts me.
I know that I lose covers. All I know is I have
You
one
got a
little
big dog,
side.
though.
We have a big dog,
Yeah.
and we have a 3-year-old,
Yeah.
and then we've got a 9-month-old. So I'm just kind of tucked. I'm just happy to have a spot on the bed. I don't really care where I sleep.
No cats. No cats
Well,
in
cats
the
are
bed.
everywhere. They sleep right up by your face.
no.
They
See,
purr. It's very
oh.
soothing.
No, it's not.